Yo, I'm finna break this girl Kamala Harris down to a penny. I'm finna break down the corruption that she has and involvement that she has with BlackRock and these lithium mine companies in the areas such as North Carolina, and the reason why a lot of these citizens that's out there that has been affected by this hurricane is screaming out that FEMA is not out here and that a lot of people is not getting help, and why a lot of people are not even getting approved for that measly $750. Listen, scrap up. This is going to go deep. This is going to sound conspiratorial until I get to the end and show you what's actually going on. Hold on tight. Let's get into it.
Flooding in North Carolina does not sit well with me. I think something's going on. So I decided to do some digging. So the first thing I find out is North Carolina has the richest deposits of lithium in the entire world. Yeah, lithium for like cars, batteries, all that. Then I find out they have the world's highest purity quartz deposits. And that quartz just so happens to be the world's supply for AI chips, microchips, and all kinds of stuff. We're talking a $530 billion industry. So this is where it gets interesting. So a company by the name of Piedmont Lithium is awaiting a state mining permit for a site in northern Gaston County. And Gaston County is completely flooded right now. The project was awaiting zoning approval because they were getting backlash from the residents and also city officials. And this lithium mine they want would be the third largest producer of lithium in the world. And they made a deal with Tesla already. Now remember the quartz? So in Spruce Pine, North Carolina, right next to Ashland, they are wanting to expand their mines even larger. And the residents aren't having it either. Enter the floods. People, these are mountain towns. It rarely, if not ever, floods in the mountains. I would know, I grew up in the mountains in Colorado, which means none of these people have flood insurance. I mean, the media is saying biblical devastation in North Carolina, AKA like the worst thing that could happen, and you're not coming back from it. Read between the lines, people. Everything happens for a reason.
There is no coincidences, I'm telling you. I'm going to further explain that in this video. That's crazy. This is what I mean, and this is what I'm going to explain, how FEMA has been weaponized to be able to displace people. But just hold on. I swear I'm going to bring it all together.
I'll tell you what I find suspicious as shit, that one of the areas affected by Hurricane Helene is the world's largest lithium deposit, and the DoD just entered into an agreement with this company right here to mine lithium for electric cars starting in 2025. Now that area is completely devastated. This was a $90 million agreement between the DoD and this company right here to get Kings Mountain, North Carolina lithium mine up and running by 2030. If that area has been inundated, is in a disaster zone, then the government can come in and do eminent domain, and they can pay you what it was worth 5 years ago rather than what it's worth right now. Imagine that your home has turned into a watery lot and the government comes to you and says, hey, I'll pay you what you paid for it. You're gonna take it and you're gonna go, right? What do you think's gonna happen right here now that they want this lithium mine up and running by 2025, 2030 at the latest? Back in 1947, we had the Florida-Georgia hurricane, or Hurricane 9, and it was the first hurricane to be targeted for weather modification. What happened was General Electric, the US Navy, the Army, the Air Force, they poured dry ice into this hurricane using airplanes to see what would happen. Would they slow it down? Well, what happened was it slowed down a little bit, but it turned west really sharp. Let me show you. This is the path that the hurricane took in 1947. Does it look similar to you? Probably not. It's a coincidence, right? Moving on. I'm sure this is just another coincidence, but do you know who owns the most shares in that lithium mine? BlackRock and Vanguard.
And see, you know what I find interesting is a lot of their agenda is to push for this 2030 agenda. And they will tell you and scream to the moon, Kamala Harris and everybody on the left, Agenda 2025. You had the DNC where everybody came out with the book, slamming it on the ground, gaslighting everybody about Agenda 2025, which a lot of the people in Agenda 2025 that's helped create the book said they have nothing to do with the presidency. It's just a couple of things that they want to see. They are a think group. You have think groups on the left, you have think groups on the right. That doesn't necessarily mean that this think group, even though they may or may not work with the administration that is currently in office, whether that's left or right, is putting and implementing things that they get in their think groups into law. So they'll scream to the moon about Agenda 2025, but they won't break down to 2030. It's only to distract you, because they know if you do a deep dive into Agenda 2030, then you will realize, that's what's going on here in North Carolina. That's what's going on here in Georgia. That's what's going on here in Florida. And then you will slow down or halt their production of what they're trying to implement through bureaucracy. That's the word of the day. Matter of fact, that's the word of the week, because that's a lot of what's going on. And that's what I'm going to explain towards the end of this video. Now, let's hop into the BlackRock and Vanguard side of this video.
Percent of the companies on S&P 500, the largest shareholder is either State Street, BlackRock, or Vanguard. 88% of them. Well, how big is BlackRock? $10 trillion. How big is $10 trillion? Only 2 countries have a bigger GDP than what BlackRock has, US and China. That's how big BlackRock is. And then you see their influence in defense contracts. If you Google top shareholders of Raytheon, BlackRock, Vanguard. Okay, let's go look at Hollywood. Same thing you see there. Let's go look at pharmaceutical. And you're like, wait a minute. These guys essentially have a monopoly. A billionaire to these guys is nothing. They got the kind of control that make companies fire boards. They can replace CEOs. They can replace leaders if they don't like. But they say 50% is a monopoly law. That is already a monopoly.
And this right here is Larry Fink. Listen to what he has to say.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year. And what we are doing internally is, if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay,
we're doing the same thing.
And so it's just you have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. And that's not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said. And ultimately, it's still going to take time, but I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities. And we're going to have to force change.
You know, one thing that's very interesting is that, force is to do something on, if you force something on someone else, that's them being moved or doing something unwillingly. So just keep this in mind as we go along the video. Larry Fink, basically the person that's running BlackRock, or the person pushed out there as the head of BlackRock, is saying we have to force behavior. And if you don't, you will be impacted. That's for these large companies. So when we see these large companies come out here and we like, why are they doing all this super woke, weird stuff? Now you know why, because the BlackRocks and the Vanguards, well, specifically BlackRock, came out and said we have to force change behavior. So when we forcefully changing behavior, is forcefully going against what we believe in America, or what anywhere traditional value people believe. This is not just for corporations. These corporations have a lot of influence on the day-to-day people, and a lot of influence on a lot of people's well-being. And just keep it in mind what they mean by forced behavior. I'm gonna break it down in a little bit. This was Executive Order 14008, and this was tackling the climate change, basically here and abroad. So I just wanted to highlight this because this executive order that Joe Biden did when he came into office was basically reinstating back what Obama had in place when he was in office, because Trump took this executive order out. And so remember, Hillary Clinton was running, and Hillary Clinton was supposed to be the continuation of their agenda. It wasn't supposed to be Trump. And when Trump got into office, he disrupted that whole process. This is why they continue to say that Trump is an existential threat, is because he's actually stopping this globalization. Now, Is Trump now compromised? I have no idea. You know, I see certain things from Trump that I don't like when it comes down to Israel, and it kind of make me feel like he's bought as well. But when it comes down to the globalist agenda, which I did see a picture of Trump and Larry Fink, which made me a little uncomfortable. You know, I talked to my brother about it. My brother was like, just because he's taking a picture don't mean necessarily that he's in cahoots with him. So I'm going to just give him a little bit of grace until I see a little bit more of him being compromised, or if he's compromised by these globalists. Because I actually seen a video of one of the people that's in the UN that's very afraid, and was explaining how these globalists are very afraid if Trump get in office, he's going to stop everything that's going on with the UN, because, you know, he already pulled out once because he said it was unfair that America was paying all the money.
The purpose of Donald Trump is to end the international institutions that somehow level the playing field. It's a movement that is deeply nationalistic. It's America first, America, make America great again, America, America, America. He wants America first.
So does the UN not want him? Yeah, because I remember her.
I mean, we are terrified. We're terrified.
So the internal vibe of the UN is like no one wants Trump? Because
Absolutely nobody wants Trump.
But nevertheless, I just wanted to put that out there and show you that this is what they're doing. This is setting the stage for this global agenda that's for 2030, and what the UN and the World Economic Forum has. And FEMA is just the government agency that's going to get weaponized to be able to displace people. And this is where I'm going to break this down right here. So I went onto the website of FEMA and I scrolled down, and you will see they have these goals that's set up, these 8 goals, these 8 equity goals. And right here, right, I want to break down all of these things into perspective, okay? So you got these 8 goals right here. And though it may look good on the surface, one, you see that their main priority is equity through inclusion. And so let's just go down the list. One, their goal one, these many goals of this equity thing, is build equity into recovery organizations and coordination structures. But my counter argument is integration equality can lead to centralization control, where bureaucrats' agendas override local needs, reducing genuine communities driven by solutions. Their goal two, identify unequal patterns of disaster exposed and impact. My counter argument, identifying inadequacy may allow selective distribution of resources driven by political interests rather than actual needs, fostering dependency instead of resiliency. Their goal three, develop a practical planning process. My counter argument, practical planning may be manipulated to assign or align communities with external agendas, limiting local autonomy under pretense of inclusivity. Goal 4, promote and protect equity throughout recovery. My counter argument, focusing on equality can deepen divisions using historical grievances to justify centralized oversight rather than fostering true fairness and unity. Goal 5, adapt to dynamic natures of recovery. My counter argument is adjusting recovery could justify prolonged control, enabling authorities to extend their influence far beyond the immediate crisis. Goal 6, monitor progress. My counter argument to the monitoring is just monitoring can turn into surveillance, which consists of data collection, allowing for invasive control under the guise of tracking equity. Goal 7, build adaptive capacity. My counter argument to that is building capacity risks making communities dependent on external entities, reducing local self-reliance and control over resources. All of this thing just lead back down to more control from these bureaucrats. And their goal 8, overcome barriers and ensure fair recovery outcomes. My counter argument to that is targeting underserved areas can result in selective intervention driven by politics rather than genuine fairness, perpetuating inequality. So all this just goes back down to more control by these people. And see, then I went to the website and you can see that Goal 1, Instill in Quality Foundation, Emergency Management. Go to Lead of Community Climate Resiliencies. And see, that resiliency thing is how they're going to weaponize, or how FEMA is being weaponized to displace millions and millions of people out of particular areas that the government that wants to control, and say, hey, this is not safe for you. You can't come here. You can't stay here. We got to use this for these lithium resources, or this is now government land. This is how they do it. They tell you to your face, but it's hard. You gotta read between the lines and see. Then I went to the FEMA website right here, and I clicked on this PDF right here, growing green from the ground up. And this right here, it's just a carbon copy of the UN and World Economic Forum agenda. That's all it is. And when you go into this and you start going down and scrolling down, you will see out of crisis opportunity. One of the first things they looking for opportunities through these crises, and not opportunities to assist on helping the American people, but assist on making their pockets bigger and assist on implementing this 2030 agenda. So I want to point out a few things that I seen when going through this that's just the same as the UN agenda. Point 1, green rebuilding after disaster. But what they're actually doing is using disaster as a recovery as a pretext to enforce strict environmental regulations and control community development under the guise of sustainability. They mention government-wide control. We know that's centralization control that could limit local autonomy with unelected elites dictating how communities rebuild. Remember, the word of the week is bureaucracy. These bureaucratic, unelected officials is who really are controlling a lot of this that's going on. Point 3, promoting renewable energy. While promoted as clean alternative, these technologies often serve as corporate interests, monopolizing energy sectors and making communities dependent on centralized systems. So all that money is just going to go back to them. We wouldn't have no control or say so what goes on, what doesn't go on when it comes down to these energies. And it would just have the market not even competitive at all. And I'm just not for none of that. Point 4 that they mentioned, green economy and jobs. But the job creation effort focused on government approved sectors, limiting opportunity in traditional industries and consolidating power in green force economy. So, you got your 18-wheeler, your CDLs, and you went and you bought that thing yourself. Nah, partner, that thing ain't a green electric truck. You can't drive it. Oh, you doing this and you doing it. These don't, too much carbon dioxide. You can't do these jobs. Yeah, so your blue collar worker, a lot of those jobs going to be gone, man, because a lot of those jobs are going to deem to be unsustainable jobs. Point 5 that they mentioned, energy efficiency as priority. But mandated energy standards could increase costs, creating dependency on government subsides and restricting freedom to choose traditional building methods. So that house ain't built. I mean, a lot of this already go on, but it's been a slow rollout. You know what I'm saying? But if you want to grow or build something in the back of your house, some type of tiny home, and you want to use this particular material, if they don't deem that safe or green, you ain't building that. So you won't have the freedom to really choose what you want to do and how you want to build and how you want to grow in your own yard and shit. We don't even know if you will have those abilities, because remember, the World Economic Forum say you will own nothing, you'll be happy. You will rent everything and the drone will come down and deliver it to you. Let's continue. So this is the growing from the green from the ground up. And right here, this is the 2030 agenda. And on here, they have the SDG 17 goals right here that they want to implement. This right here is straight BS. This right here, if you fall for this, man, I don't think you have a brain to think for yourself. And let's go to these 17 goals. And I kind of want to break down my counter argument to these 17 goals. So let's go over these goals. And I want to substantiate my counter argument to each and every one of them. When you go through this PDF, you can read on each and every one of these goals, but I'm going to give you my counter argument to each and every one of them. So you got goal 1, no poverty. Programs meant to fight poverty actually centralize control over resources, restricting people's freedoms and using the incentives as a way to monitor and control through the universal basic income. Because to end poverty, everybody got to get paid. So to get paid, now we're going to have a centralized currency that comes through, and that we're going to pay each and everybody that got to sign up. They're going to sign up. We're going to have everybody mandate that they sign up. They get this basic universal income. And all that's going to do is be able to monitor everything you do and everywhere you spend your money. And then if you don't do what they say, or you going against the grain, guess what? They shut that thing off. So in actuality, if they shut all of that thing off and exile you from society and you become poor again because you didn't listen, or they lock you up, is poverty even ended? These are things you got to think about when going over these goals. They're double talking. Goal 2, zero hunger. Climate focusing farming policies force local farmers into specific practices while pushing, I believe, synthetic foods production, which may end up in causing more hunger instead of solving it. Because I might be one of those people that don't want to eat that 3D printed meat that you creating over there, Kill Gates. I don't want it. And a lot of the food that's coming out now, because y'all talking about health and sustainability, y'all spraying it down with herbicides, pesticides, and all of these other chemicals, which are turning these things to genetically modified organisms that a lot of people are ingesting every single day. You got a list of things that's on the label when you go in to buy your food in the grocery store. And then not only that, you got the way that these people grew the food that's not healthy neither. Goal 3, good health and well-being. Health incentives are used to enforce government rules and regulations, especially during crisis, while promoting unhealthy lifestyles, I believe, and limiting personal freedom over healthcare choices. I should be able to choose how I want to live my life, not you tell me how I'm going to live my life, healthy or not healthy. It shouldn't be in the government's hands, whether I'm obese, whether I'm not obese, whether I eat healthy or I don't eat healthy. I should have the freedom to choose. 4, equality education. The education system controls what student learns, particularly on topics like climate change, to push certain ideas and create more obedient societies rather than encouraging diverse thoughts. That's what I call these schools now. And it's going to be even worse when all of this is implemented. It's going to be indoctrination systems. That's what it already is. Go ask your boy Rockefeller. He said, I want to create workers. I don't want to create nobody that can critically think. And it's just been a slow walk. This been going on since me and you been alive. This is what they've been implementing. And now they're pushing for it to be in full force by 2030 and nobody's seeing it. Goal 5, gender equality. Gender equality policies may confuse traditional society roles and family structures, fostering dependence on government systems instead of promoting true equality. Remember, a lot of these people believe in Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of those things kind of go intertwined in one with each other. You know, Karl Marx says when Christians die, they go to heaven, and Marxists go to socialism. Goal 7, clean water and sanitation. Water and sanitation incentives often give government more control over who get access to clean water, leaving farmers and poor communities without adequate resources. Listen, remember, They're using FEMA to replace a lot of Americans, a lot of people in general. I got to stop saying Americans because this agenda is just not going on in America, but it's slowly moving into, matter of fact, not even slowly, it is moving into America. And they weaponize FEMA to displace a lot of people to say, hey, this ground is not safe for you to be. This is government land. We control this. You got to get out. And then they control the water as well, because I was reading upon a lot of their agendas. They're predicting that there will be a water shortage. How are you predicting there will be a water shortage? Just like you predicted that it would be COVID-19. It's very ironic to me. Very funny to me. That just send off question marks everywhere, because all these, oh, we predict this, and then it happens. You can't predict a virus, but nevertheless, they're predicting a water shortage, and there's going to be a drought, another drought, and that they're saying, hey, we don't have water, and that we got to control the distribution of these waters just for people all to get it. And all that does is give them more control over your air, your food, and your water. And if they control that, they become your God. That's all they want to do. That's their agenda, to become your God and to enslave you. And if you don't get along with the program, you're going to be left out to starve. Goal 8, decent work, economic growth. By favoring certain government-backed industries, economic policies hurt private entrepreneurs, potentially driving people to rely more on government-provided income. Now remember what your boy Larry Fink said. He said, we are forcing behavior change. You got to force behavior. That's all this is right here. Goal 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Infrastructure project focus more on surveillance and control under the guise of resilience and innovation, prioritizing security over real progress. Goal 10, reduce inequality. Efforts to reduce inequality often result in policies that redistribute resources in a way that limit individual freedoms, while wealth remains concentrated among the elite, exacerbating the very inequality they aim to solve. Come on, man. You give them an inch, they take a mile, they get more control. All the elites, the touted elites, will stay in power, and all that money just go to them. Look what BlackRock doing now. Look what Vanguard doing now. Look what these politicians doing now. Look at what Nancy Pelosi doing now. Goal 11, sustainable cities and communities. Urbanizing plans that claim to create sustainable communities actually centralize population for easier control, shutting down small business and increasing social unrest. Now, go look into 15-minute cities. Now, go look into your boy Bill Gates and his interest of a 15-minute city in Tampa right now, and you had the hurricane that just hit. Even I seen something about Donald Trump talking about creating a small 15-minute city.
Almost 1/3 of the land mass of the United States is owned by the federal government, with just a very, very small portion of that land, just a fraction, 1/2 of 1%. Would you believe that? We should hold a contest to charter up to 10 new cities and award them to the best proposals for development. In other words, we'll actually build new cities in our country again. These freedom cities will reopen the frontier, reignite American imagination, and give hundreds of thousands of young people and other people, all hardworking families, a new shot at home ownership and, in fact, the American dream.
If homes were built on federal land, there are several ways the government could structure private ownership, but it wouldn't be straightforward. Here are some possibilities. 1. Land lease agreements. This is one of the most common methods when private entities or individuals occupy federal land. The government retains ownership of the land, but leases it to individuals or developers for long periods, often 99 years or more. In this model, you could own the home itself, but not the land beneath it. This arrangement is often used for housing in areas like national parks or Native American reservations. Residents would pay lease fees for the land while owning their homes. 2. Land transfers. In some cases, the federal government could transfer the land to private individuals or developers, making it possible to have full private ownership. This could be done through land auctions, sales, or grants, where the land title is transferred from federal to private ownership. However, this would involve political and bureaucratic processes to authorize the sale or transfer of federal land. 3. special economic zones, or districts. In line with the Freedom Cities idea, the federal government could establish special zones with unique rules. They might privatize the land within these zones for the purpose of home ownership or economic development. These zones could have laws allowing private ownership, even if the land originally belonged to the federal government. 4. Public-private partnerships. The government could partner with private developers, where the federal government maintains some level of control over the land, but allows private ownership of homes and infrastructure. This would likely involve complex legal agreements and may also have restrictions on the resale or use of the property. In any of these cases, there would need to be specific legal frameworks created to allow private ownership, even if the land itself technically remains federal. Any such initiative would likely face legal, environmental, and political challenges. If a presidential candidate proposed building cities on federal lands, the size of those cities would depend on a variety of factors, such as the available land, infrastructure, population needs, and environmental considerations. Federal land makes up around 27% of the U.S., about 640 million acres, but much of that is in rural areas, national parks, forests, and wildlife refuges, which are not ideal for large-scale urban development. For comparison, big U.S. cities like New York City occupy around 300,000 acres, 468 square miles, while Los Angeles is about 300,000 acres, 503 square miles. Mid-sized cities like Atlanta cover about 85,000 acres, 133 square miles. Theoretically, if new cities were designed to be similar in size to existing cities, they might range from 100,000 to 500,000 acres, depending on their purpose: dense urban centers, suburban sprawl, or eco-friendly designs. However, environmental restrictions and resource availability, water for example, would significantly limit where and how large these cities could actually be built on federal lands.
So this is where I say, I don't even know if Donald Trump is even compromised, because I see things from him that I'm like, I don't know about that one. But I understand sometimes it's playing chess and not checkers. And a lot of the things that he say go against a lot of the things that they're trying to build and create. You know, he slowed them down on pushing this agenda that was supposed to be implemented with Hillary Clinton. So sometimes I'm like, okay, he on this side, he on this. I'm seeing. So I'm not 100% sure. But all I do is urge you to go do a deeper dive. Goal 12. Responsible consumption and production. Government restrictions on resources used in the name of sustainability limit access to natural resources while promoting synthetic alternatives controlled by the elite. Goal 13. Climate action. Climate policies are used as a pretext to restrict property rights and control energy access using fear-based narratives and manipulated public behavior and policies. Goal 14. Life below water. Conservation efforts that claim to protect marine life often results in government control of ocean resources, expanding genetically modified aquatic farming and undermining local autonomy. Goal 15, life on land. Land conservation policies often covers for centralized land ownership, restricting individual property rights and allowing elites to monopolize ownership. Remember, I told you, you will own nothing, you'll be happy. The only thing you'll be able to do is rent. That's their agenda. They're going to be owning things. They're going to be in their $15 million worth mansion and saying, hey, it's okay. This is what you need to do. This is what we got to do. They're going to be flying off in their jets and spreading all this carbon dioxide and say, you know what, but the efforts that we do and, you know, it kind of cover up for the carbon dioxide that we emit with these private jets. Or they'll say, you know, I pay the bills, you know, for my carbon dioxide. We got to pay it for it. That's all they want to do. Goal 16, peace, justice, and strong institution. Equality incentives are used to enforce compliance, creating a system that favors elites while justifying unequal treatment of those who dissent. Dividing society for easier control. You know they come just to divide and conquer, bro. Goal 17, partnership for the goals. Partnership between the government and corporations are used to centralize power, silencing local voices and promoting the interests of the elites over grassroots movements. See, all I'm saying is the word of the week is bureaucracy. These bureaucratic people in the government will step on these grassroots movements and people that speak out like me saying, hey, we got to come together in a fight against this evil that is trying to arise. And they will use their corporations to put people in fear and say, nah, he can't eat today. That universal basic income, nah, he can't have that today. So he ain't gonna be able to go and buy food, buy water, and have clean air. Go look at Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang had went on to the Breakfast Club at one point a couple of years ago when he was running for president or mayor, one of the two. And he kept on talking about universal basic income and saying how AI is going to take over and that a lot of people are going to need this universal basic income.
That.
Yeah, what do we do indeed?
What's the solution?
So the solution I'm proposing, and anyone who's heard about my campaign knows this, I'm proposing that we declare a dividend of $1,000 a month for every American adult starting at age 18.
That's the universal basic income.
Yes,
that you're proposing.
the universal basic income, which I've rebranded the freedom dividend because it tests better with more Americans with the word freedom in it.
I don't want a universal basic income because that universal basic income is going to insist on taking away my freedoms away, because if the government can control how you get your money and how you make your money and when your money come in, then guess what? They can take it away at any time. Now, they could already freeze a lot of people's bank accounts, but a lot of people have the ability to go have offshore accounts, have a non-centralized coin such as Bitcoin, and be able to move around. But you let the government create their own, then there'll be more control, more surveillance, and more data mining from these touted elites. Let's continue. So I gave you these 17 points of what they want to do, and I gave you my rebuttal to all of these points. All of these points, when you really look deep into it and you go through these documents, it sounds like slavery. There's a lot of unelected officials that have their hand in the government, telling the government what they're going to do and how they're going to do and when they're going to do. And their best interest is not for the American people. And a lot of these politicians do not have your best interest in heart. They're too busy implementing this 2030 agenda that is pushed upon by bureaucratic, unelected officials. So I want you to go do your personal research, not just believe in what I'm showing you. Though I'm going and taking a deep dive to show you what's actually going on, you actually got to go do your own research so you can see it with your own eyes. Do not trust nobody at all. Not nobody in these, none of these politicians. Keep a keen eye on them, watch their every move, and use your vote effectively. Let's continue, man. This right here is the SDG logo that you will see your boy Bill Gates wear, and you will see your local politicians like Obama, and you will see this guy that runs Canada. And I wanted to show Obama on that stage because it's a prime example of what I've been saying this whole video with bureaucracy, unelected officials like Bill Gates that comes in and implement his thoughts and his. Look what happened during the COVID situation. Who was in the forefront implementing and saying that we got to get vaccines and telling people what is the right way and the wrong way? It was your boy Bill Gates. That's who was doing it. When did he become a doctor, though? And why was everybody talking about Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates come save us? Why? And so we have to keep a keen eye to that. I showed you right there. Everybody loved Obama because he was a good talker, but Obama was one of the worst presidents in my eyes that I ever been allowed to experience. I'm not saying they haven't been worse, but he ushered in this movement the strongest because he was a sweet talker and he was charismatic and he could say these things and it just go right over people's head. But I wanted to show you this right here. This is from the World Economic Forum. I pulled this up on YouTube. I'm going to put the side by side of it in English because I wasn't able to find it on English in YouTube. But I'm going to read this as we go. 8 predictions for the world in 2030. Remember this 2030 agenda. Go look it up. You will own nothing and you will be happy. This is Klaus Schwab in his Davos group telling you will own nothing and be happy. You won't own your phone. You won't own your car. You won't own your clothes. You won't own nothing. You're going to be renting. Whatever you want, you will rent, and it will be delivered by a drone. This is not no prediction. This is them foretelling. Remember, everybody wants to say, oh, The Simpsons predicted this. No, the Simpsons is along with these guys. It's called predictive programming. So they tell you these things, they put it in your face, and then when it happens, people are more willing to go along with the get along. The U.S. won't be the world leading superpower. And for everybody in America, you should take this as a direct threat of them coming after you and your traditional values and what you believe in and your livelihood. A handful of countries will dominate. Over who? United States? This is why I say you should take that as a direct threat. I mean, you see BRICS, you see these countries coming together to dominate over our currency. We won't be the leader anymore. You see our dollar is not backed by gold. We going in super inflation, and our economy and our whole country is just going down the toilet. You won't die waiting on an organ donor. We won't transplant organs. We will print a new one instead. And for me, that's just kind of like putting a chip in your body, because they probably going to put a chip in there to say, oh, we monitoring just to make sure if you could 3D print an organ. Like, come on, Joe. That is crazy. And they already 3D printing meat. So 3D printing a heart, as you can see right here, is just like they could probably turn that thing on and off when they want. You will eat much less meat. An occasional treat, not a staple for the good of the government. 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. See, I just went over that, not too long ago, going over their goals and how they will use climate resiliencies to say this is our land. This is government land. And how they would do that is through these climate disasters, like you have the hurricane in Carolina, and they'll say, you know what? This is the disaster zone. Or they say this government loan, we need this for mining. And they use that, and people like to say, oh, you can't control these weather, blah, blah, blah. They can control the hurricanes. They've been doing it since I've been born. Before I've been born, you could go look up Robert Fletcher in 1995. He went amongst Congress, and he was explaining with all the documentations on how, the UN is using weather modification to cause these tornadoes throughout their growing field. I think it was 26 tornadoes in their growing field out of 28 tornadoes totally. You could go look up patent after patent after patent. You could go look up all these old news channels when they had episodes of them shooting lasers up into the sky to control the weather. They got planes that go into the clouds that do drop dry ice to control hurricanes turning to different directions, or creating more weather and creating more rain and snowfall. They use this and say, oh, it's for more snow and more waterfalls so we could have more water to our rivers. But in actuality, these people don't have your best interest. They want their agendas implemented. So they're going to use it in their best interest. And if that means you being displaced, a big billion people being displaced by climate change, that means you're going to be displaced into what? More centralized cities, 15-minute cities. So there's more surveillance. They're telling you what's going on and what they believe right in your face. We have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. They want to flood the border. They want to create these people to undocumented immigrants to documented. You could see Nancy Pelosi saying this. You could see Kamala Harris saying this. You could see the whole left saying this.
The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
Well, it's something we have to do for people who are here now.
This is before you're a citizen. This is undocumented. This is for the undocumented.
Well, what I would like to do is move them to documented. The fact that we can move them to documented. And one of the best things that we can do for our economy is to pass comprehensive immigration reform.
So now when you see our borders flooded, you know why this is going on, because this is their agenda. Polluters will have to pay to emit carbon dioxide. There will be a global price on carbon. This will help make fossil fuels history. This is crazy, bruh. I mean, the whole world used fossil fuels as energy and they became very efficient before I was even born, man. And now they want to come with this electric infrastructure, which I believe will be very inconsistent and be centralized to only these touted elites and who they say can, do these things versus the American people, using something that's already been proven and that we've been using that's very productive to each and every one. A lot of people are going to lose their cars or not be able to drive their cars because they're going to be taxed if they drive those cars. You could be preparing to go to Mars. Wow. Scientists will have worked out how to keep you healthy in space. These scientists I don't trust because look what they're doing down here on Earth. Why would I trust them to keep me healthy in Mars, but they can't even keep people healthy on Earth? And the way that they're going about it is by what your boy Bill Gates is saying and what your boy Klaus Schwab is saying, and not in actuality will really help us be more sustainable on Earth. The start of a journey to find alien life. This is another threat to people in America. Western values will have been tested to a breaking point. This is what I mean. These people do not believe in Western values. They do not care about your family structure. Marxism believes in destroying the nuclear family. These Western values are aimed to be destroyed because if we can destroy these Western values and destroy these families, I will always have control of the youth. That's what they believe. They will always have control over the youth so they can grow a new era and a new generation of believing in these ideas in Marxism, socialism, and communism. And so they won't have to have such of a fight because these people will be indoctrinated into believing the ideas that they administer amongst the people. Checks and balances that underpin our democracy must not be forgotten. This is crazy, man. Wow. Just wow. This right here is Kamala Harris campaign page, New Way Forward. Not only is it not the direction that I want to go, but the slogan is the slogan of the Communist Party. New Way Forward, we're not going back. Yes, that's been their slogan. And she adopted that slogan. In a future video, I'm going to be showing you how Kamala Harris' background is filled with communist people. But today, I was just doing a little research while I was on her page, and I was going down, and I was just showing, how Kamala Harris is still Joe Biden. There's no difference. Talking about providing additional $570 billion in foreign military finances to ensure Ukraine has the tools to defend itself, strengthening NATO eastern flank by enhancing cooperation and security guarantees to Ukraine. And I want to show right here, this is her page. It goes to her Twitter when you click on it. New Way Forward. 30 days to the election. Wow. So when we go back, I was just snooping on this and like, man, yes, this is her. But then if you click on the advisory board, you see no other than who? First on the page, Hillary Clinton, who don't believe in your First Amendment rights, who don't believe in free speech, and who believe that, these social media companies got to be held accountable because, we just thought there was a pass through and, now their platforms are administering misinformation. The misinformation is only misinformation to them because it goes against their 2030 agenda. They don't want you to have the right to say anything that they don't believe in. And they want to be able to punish people who don't believe in them.
We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm. And boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence.
Because he has lost his privileges and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop.
We need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Remember, they want to stop the grassroots foundation groups and voices that differ from theirs.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3. The second factor is the services we use. This encompasses everything: the food we eat, clothing, TV, heating. These are very good things. Getting rid of poverty means providing these services to almost everyone on the planet. And it's a great thing for this number to go up.
This is why she's saying it. It's because she's on the advisory board by Bill Clinton, not Bill Clinton. Yes, Bill Clinton, but Hillary Clinton and Bill Gates. But there's more. Oh my goodness. He don't even look happy. At least he could smile. You have Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock. Remember, we played the video. He wants to force change behavior. Remember, Kamala Harris has an invested interest with BlackRock and Vanguard. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But these are the people who are controlling. This is why the word of the day is bureaucracy, because these unelected officials, nobody voted these people in office. These people are the hidden hand behind these politicians that we vote for. And you have Alex Soros, George Soros' son. Of course, when George Soros passed away, which he haven't yet, he's just going to continue what George Soros already implemented. And then, lo and behold, the devil himself, Klaus Schwab. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Yes. So these are the people on her advisory board of her campaign. So you know that a lot of her policy will align up with these people beliefs, not the American people and what we really want. And we continue to say, hey, answer the question specifically. Hey, we want to understand who you really are. But the reason why she struggled to do that is because she cannot go against what these people are advising her to do. I mean, I would think she'll fake it till she make it, but she can't do that because each and every day, these people are advising her otherwise. Then you have your boy, Dr. Fauci. We already know the evils that this man has done with dealing with HIV and AIDS and COVID, all the lies that he have told and all the back and forth thing that he have did. And then Bill Clinton. See, none of these people was for the American people at all. None of them. All these people were just in place as Bill Clinton and Kamala Harris in place as puppets, because you had these people that were behind the scene actually making the decisions. Look at this. Communist Marxist right here. This activist, she's Marxist. Like, man, it's Dick Cheney. We all know the evil that this man did, and how this is why I say, and this is why you will have people like Liz Cheney and the other Republicans go and support Kamala Harris, because these people have governmental contracts. These people create the bombs that are used by the Ukraine army, that's used in Israel. These people are the people who support that, and they have these governmental contracts that make their pockets bigger when there's war. These people are warmongering politicians, and this is why the Democratic Party is not even for the people anymore. They never been for the people. They was the party of enslavement, the party of Jim Crow. There was the party that has been against people having freedom. And then we have Taylor Swift, who's in partnership with Bill Gates when it comes down to the Brass company, because she bought that company. And so this is furthermore proving my point. We have this company right here that has the contracts in North Carolina that is mining for these lithiums. And this is why people would say, well, what you mean they controlled the hurricane and they sent it to North Carolina to do How ironic is this company right here already in North Carolina that's looking for this lithium that has the most lithium in the world, right? And I'm going to show you in this next scene, if it pops up, Kings Mountain, USA, where you see they have this larger deposit of lithium, right? But who's the top shareholder in this company? Vanguard and BlackRock. I'm going to scroll down to Yahoo Finance. We click on there. We scroll down. And guess what? Who we see? Vanguard, 14.31 million. BlackRock, basically 10 million, 9.96 million invested into this company. And then you see the Vanguard 500 Index Fund, Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund. Then you have Vanguard Mid Cap Index Fund. Remember that. That's important. I'm going to show you in a second. So then we go BlackRock ETF Trust BlackRock Fund. Remember that. I want to show you that because this next scene that I'm finna show you is why. And you will have Kamala Harris doing what she doing, and why a lot of these people feeling like FEMA ain't really out there to help them, because FEMA has been weaponized, and FEMA is not going to come out there and help people because these people have an invested interest into that town that went under. And you have Kamala Harris and her husband actually have stock in these companies. So when we go to Yahoo and we scroll down, we're going to hit continue story. And as we scroll down, we read, guess what we see? Kamala Harris' notable investment includes Vanguard Target Retirement 2030 Trust 2, worth between $250,000 and $500,000. All right. Then as we go down, we have Imhoff retirement account are heavily invested in exchange traded funds from Vanguard, BlackRock, Charles Schwab, and some funds in Imhoff portfolio, according to documents filled by Harris in 2021, includes Vanguard Small Cap Value Index, Vanguard Small Cap Growth Index, Vanguard Growth Index ETF. But that's not it. We scroll down, we see more Vanguard. Vanguard Consumer Staple Index ETF, Vanguard Industries ETF. So I'm showing you right here how Kamala Harris is invested into these towns, and the reason why she is compromised and controlled. You seen on her advisory board the CEO of BlackRock. Don't you think the CEO of BlackRock, who owns 9.93 million, and BlackRock owns shares in Vanguard, and Vanguard owns shares in BlackRock, don't you think they would advise her to tell FEMA to do X, Y, and Z, to not show up in these particular areas? Because I just read off to you their agenda of 2020-30 and how they're going to use certain lands for them to own and say, hold on, we got to use climate resiliency. We got to be resilient against climate change. And you know what? There's a lot of lithium here. We're going to need this ground to be mined. They're probably going to pay these people pennies on the dollar for their property that they lost, if they even do that. You see how they trying to only give $750 to the people if they're approved, because a lot of people are out there saying, hey, I'm not even getting approved for this money. It's disgusting. So know who you voting for when you go out there and vote for Kamala Harris. When you're talking about, oh, she's black. Go know who you voting for when you go out there and you say, oh, she's a woman. Look how she's compromised. Look at her husband investments. Know who you voting for when you go out there and vote for this person. And her whole advisory is filled with people that against the American traditional values, who don't believe in this Constitution, who talk about putting the Western society values to a breaking point, who talk about, hey, you know, the U.S. will not be a superpower anymore. These are the people that's on her advisory board. Know who you voting for. This lady is compromised. She is the number one enemy to the state right now. Listen, you are me, I'm you. We're one and the same body. I love you for real, bro. Educate yourself. Don't trust Fox. Don't trust MSNBC. Don't trust CNN. Go do your own. Hey, you got to be a journalist at this time. You got to go do your own research, because these people do not have your best interests. FEMA is weaponized now. They've been weaponized. All these companies, for these unelected officials, are doing the dirty work of these people like Klaus Schwab, like Bill Gates. But listen, you are me, I'm you, we're one and the same body. I love you. Keep your head up. Keep your nose clean. You say the world, you live forever. Peace. I'm Jessel Fletcher. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm out.